9 great stories of 9 great soccer players. 1. Breaking the mold. Kaká, 18-year-old Ricardo Ixon dos Santos Light made a list of 10 objectives while lying in bed for 2 months with a broken neck. Not to mention that he was unsure whether he would ever be able to play football again after breaking his 6th vertebra at the bottom of a waterslide. And forget conservative optimism. Even for a Brazilian youngster who had grown up around football, these were extraordinary goals, especially for a young man who had to enroll in a medical school and who had not yet made the starting lineup of the São Paulo Football Club's junior team. The list started off with return to football, and went up from there, ending with compete in the World Cup, and transfer to a big club in Italy or Germany. He was picked up to São Paulo's professional team just 2 weeks after beginning to play football again. He was substituted into the coveted Rio-São Paulo tournament finals with 10 minutes left. When the midfielder received a high, looping ball, he flipped it behind the back of a defender before firing a low shot beneath the diving goalkeeper as São Paulo trailed Botafogo 1-0. 2 minutes later, as TV announcers yelled, "Goal!" he scored another low rocket to seal the victory. Kaká had visited Brazil. When his older brother struggled to say his name, he was given the moniker Kaká. Within 2 years, he was able to box off every item on his bucket list, including playing for Brazil's World Cup victors. He seized his starting position for São Paulo. Kaká quickly attained the highest individual awards in football, including the FIFA World Player of the Year and the Ballon d'Or for World Player of the Player. "I have been extremely successful. I could appear to have everything. Several individuals ask about my need for Jesus because of my popularity and money," he remarked. The response is straightforward. "Every day of my existence, I need Jesus. According to his word, the Bible, I am powerless without him. I genuinely think that God has given me the ability to play football and everything that has come from it." After his breakthrough performance, Kaká's popularity in football-mad Brazilian grew steadily. He was immediately hailed as a hero by the media, which adored covering him. After the initial shock, Kaká grew friendly with the media and his followers, but he shied away from the spotlight and the temptations of the nightclub and paparazzi scenes. His family and religion served as his compass, as they always did. "Many people believe that I started following Christ after the water slide incident, but that is untrue," according to Kaká. "My parents taught me a strong trust in Jesus Christ and the Bible's principles." Kaká's baptism at the age of 12 was a significant turning point and had a significant impact on his developing spiritual life. He explains, "Slowly, I stopped only listening to people talk about the Jesus my parents taught me. A time came when I desired to have my own personal encounters with God." Although Kaká's on-field successes undoubtedly gave him international notoriety, his status as a unique international sports star has also garnered considerable media attention. Kaká disproves any myth about professional athletes. For instance, Kaká and Caroline, his wife, are well known for getting married while still being virgins and publicly discussing it in the media. "We had to make a difficult decision, which was one of the biggest trials of Kaká's life. We invested a lot of time in prayer and close fellowship with the Holy Spirit and Jesus. Although it was a huge difficulty, waiting was definitely the right move. After marriage, sex is a great gift from God for the enjoyment of both the husband and the wife. It is not the meaningless or careless affair it has grown to be in modern society." Kaká has 92 appearances for Brazil's national team and has played in 4 top professional leagues, therefore it is clear that he is all about Jesus. 2. The dog that saved United. Isn't it lovely to create deceptive titles and subtitles? Torquay United, not the Manchester-based team, is the one being scrutinized in this case. Torquay United needed to come back from a 2-0 deficit at the half if they wanted to stay in the league and avoid being the first side to be kicked out of the Football League in 1987. A glimmer of hope could now be seen when Jim McNichol drew one back just after the break on the strength of a deflected free kick. However, no one could have foreseen what would happen next. The scorer, a German Shepherd, appeared out of nowhere and bit the former right-back as the goal scorer, McNichol, rushed towards the touchline to chase a dying ball. The dog, named Bryn, apparently believed that the defender was approaching to attack his master since it bit McNichol's legs with its teeth. 5 minutes were added to the game's total because of the full-back's injured time. Fortunately, Paul Dobson's equalizer in the penultimate minute of extra time was just about enough to save Torquay from dropping. Perhaps the discomfort was worth Jim McNichol's 17 stitches and 3 holes in his leg. 3. Pele's luck shirt. We all have rituals that are hidden deep in the depths of our subconscious minds. In this way, football players are not any different from other people. Pele, one of the most renowned players ever, used rituals to play at his very best. Pele's form suffered a severe decline in the middle of the 1960s, which confused Santos supporters and personnel. Pele himself was quite concerned and tried to figure out what was causing his downward trend. After much consideration, he discovered a solid explanation. He thought, he is the responsible for his downward performance by giving his lucky jersey to a Santos supporter. So in order to recover what he had lost, he engaged a detective. The investigator Pele hired found the shirt after a protracted search, and Pele immediately resumed playing at his peak. Isn't it fortunate? Fun fact, the investigator gave Pele his jersey from the previous game instead of the lucky shirt that he had lost. It is all in the mind, as they say. 4. 3 yellow cards for Josip Simunic. The controversy brought on by refereeing decisions is one of those aspects of football that will never truly go away. There is at least one officiating event in practically every other game, regardless of the competition, that sparks debate among both fans and commentators. One such game, between Croatia and Australia in the 2006 World Cup, is renowned more for the poor officiating than the actual football. Simunic received a second yellow card for a harsh challenge in the 90th minute after receiving a booking in the 61st minute. Usually, players are dismissed after receiving a second yellow. That appears to be the standard practice. To even Simunic's surprise, referee Graham Poll did not show the player the red card. So he went outside to fix it, and 3 minutes later he was yelling at Poll. The official then produced the third yellow card as a result, and this time the red card actually appeared. After the World Cup, Poll decided to stop refereeing international games since the incident was so humiliating for him. 5. A manager for 10 minutes. Structural unemployment is among the most prevalent types of unemployment. When a person loses their employment as a result of the hierarchy's top members no longer needing their talents, this has happened. Leroy Rossinier, in our case, succumbed to the latter, costing him his job at Torquay in 2007. Only 10 miserable minutes of Rossinier's tenure at the club. Mike Bateson, the club's departing owner, needed someone to run it while it was being sold. Rossinier was notified that his services were no longer needed since the club had been sold just before he was going to be introduced as the new manager. Sadly, Rossinier. He may have felt similar to a guy who had been given a date for the prom but was dumped as soon as they entered and the girl was asked out by someone else. 6. The man who sold himself. What should you do if your football team's finances are precarious and you need to make savings in order to survive? Your 23-year-old star player is chosen to serve as player manager. What do you do if you're the player manager of a struggling football team that is in need of funding to stay afloat but has limited resources? You sell yourself, really. Ivor Broadus was a gifted attacker that Carlisle United hired as their player manager in 1946, right after the war was over. 3 years later, Sunderland came calling for the player manager as the club's finances began to exhibit concerning trends. Sunderland was willing to pay £18,000 for the inside forward services, and Broadus saw the opportunity to leave a significant financial legacy. Things can prevent the club from being unnoticed. He eventually sold himself and played 18 times for England before making a second stint with the club. 7. When football became a war. Football has been called the beautiful game by Pele. Football is one of the few things that allows people to temporarily forget about the real issues facing the globe, despite the fact that it undoubtedly divides perspectives. However, it is a genuinely dismal picture when football turns out to be the root of one of the biggest serious issues. A last-second goal helped Honduras defeat El Salvador 1-0 in a World Cup qualifying match in 1969. This caused the crowd to erupt into fits, which ultimately resulted in the stadium being set on fire. By disparaging one another in their own outlets, the media of the two countries fueled the conflict and increased the hostility. The next leg was played in El Salvador, and things got out of hand when the Honduras team's hotel was set on fire in the dead of night. Fortunately, the players were able to escape without injury, but the incident left them emotionally confused. The away team obviously lost the game, and chaos once more broke out as cars were set on fire in the streets and storefront windows were destroyed. The cruelty was so extreme that the hospitals broke attendance records. But on July 14, 1969, when the military intervened and the full-fledged war broke out between the two nations, things completely got out of hand. After the Salvadoran Air Force blasted within Honduras borders, the war started. Along the primary route that connects the two countries, they also launched an extensive foot offensive. The Salvadorans were indeed bloodthirsty and would have killed even more if they hadn't run out of petrol and weapons. 6,000 people died after 100 hours of blood and warcry. 50,000 people lost their homes, and 12,000 were injured. The large deportation of Salvadoran immigrants from Honduras, who fled their country roughly 10 years ago owing to a lack of arable land, was the cause of this battle. An unforgettable football game served as gasoline for the internal tensions that were already raging. 8. Adebayor's childhood. The slide before that was a grim and graphic description that in so many ways tarnished the beautiful game. Although death and destruction are inevitable parts of life, the ugliness of the war was particularly memorable. However, Emmanuel Adebayor best exemplifies how sport can also be the catalyst for someone acquiring a life. There are many African football players who overcame disadvantaged upbringings to become millionaires and enjoy the high life. There was no difference with Adebayor. However, the fact that football taught him how to walk set his story apart from the others and made it all the more unique and extraordinary. The Togolese were unable to walk when they were just 4 years old. To no avail, his mother traveled to numerous African nations in search of a treatment for her son's illness. Finally, the church told her to pray for him every day for a week. The church claimed that if even that failed, there was no hope left. Adebayor was unable to walk for the first 6 days, but on the 7th day of prayers, a child playing outside threw a football inside the church. "And I was the first to get up and start running because I wanted to get that ball," added Adebayor. 9. Lionel Messi. Messi has succeeded in football since he was a youngster. He could easily slip to the goalpost due to his small height, however, unable to score due to a significant growth hormone deficit. His family was unable to pay for his care. Messi's father issued Barcelona an ultimatum when they first learned of him, saying that he would only allow his son to play if they paid for his medical care. Barcelona concurred.